All right, here we go. Oh, wait, one quick change, and then we're good. Swap video. There we go. Cool. Sucio Talk Podcast, coming to you from Santa Monica, California. Sucio Talk Podcast, we are here in the house that Jeremy Fox built, all right? Shout out to Chef Matt Shaler in the house. What's up, Chef? How are you?
Doing well, Chef. How are you?
All right. I'm fucking amazing. Are you kidding me? Coming all the way down here and get to talk to you guys, and then I'm eating here later, you know? Then we got the general manager, Keely, correct?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. And say your last name for everybody, because it's awesome.
Yeah.
All birds, like the shoes. No, I'm wrong. It's all birds. Like, oh, those birds. Yeah. We're sitting underneath a plethora of Hoshigaki. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about this project and how long you guys been doing it? And
Yeah, so this is, I guess, an inherited passion.
Right.
Started during the pandemic. Right now we're sitting under 600 Hoshigaki. These persimmons come to us from Murray Family Farms.
Okay.
But this is something that we started during the pandemic. Chef Fox had been talking about for years, and then we finally pulled the trigger on it. Started with, I think, 250.
Right.
And then bumped it up the next year. Last year we did 2,500,
No way.
which was too many.
Way too many.
This is far too many.
What number did you get to before you're like, this is too many? Was it like 1,800?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in the middle of it, like, no.
It was one of those things where I had to. I said we were gonna do it, so I had to. So I
Right.
just tried not to think about it. So yeah, I mean it's found in a lot of different cultures. Hoshigaki, that word itself is the Japanese practice of
Right.
taking underripe persimmons, otherwise known as green persimmons, peeling them, hanging them, and then as they ripen, they also dry at the same time.
Right.
And they get massaged, and what you're left with is this, like, it looks like it has a camembert bloom,
Right.
but it's actually just sugar crystals. It's a really jammy, beautiful, incredibly labor-intensive way to make dried fruit.
Right.
But it's kind of like nothing else. I mean, you know, we're also very lucky to use the Southern California produce.
Right.
So it's not, you know, you can't start with something bad and end up with something good. So we start with something great, and hopefully we don't fuck it up.
Right.
But yeah, we get in a couple hundred at a time. We peel them. Traditionally, you'll find them with the stem on, but we've found that doing little like S hooks in them
Right.
is helpful.
Okay.
So those hang, they get massaged every few days, and then there's this kind of like feeling where it's not too dry, but it's not too soft, and then they'll come down, they'll get rolled, they'll go in and out of airtight containers, and then eventually that like really beautiful like frosty bloom will form on the outside.
Okay. Got it. And then is there a time when you can go over, dry them too much?
Yeah, they just become hard.
Right.
And actually, so we have like an archive of Hoshigaki throughout the years. Right now, they're all Haichia persimmons, but we've done Fuyus, we've done giant Fuyus. So we have kind of like, I don't know, probably 20 or so from each year that we've done them, just kind of sitting away as something to look at, I guess.
Right.
But every year they get drier and drier, and they'll become a little mealy. You know, we've had some over dried ones. You know, it's tough because you're not tasting the fruit beforehand, so
Right.
some will be not as sweet, not a high sugar content. And you know, we find ways to use the overly dry ones. We'll turn them into a jam, or we'll soak them into vinegar. But yeah, you can let them go too long for sure.
Okay. Dope. Keely, do you have any hand in this project? Are you touching these persimmons?
The only thing I did was just create where they're hanging.
Okay,
That's it.
got you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the dopest Hoshigaki setup I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So this the time and the fact that they're all hanging like at the same heights, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
You know?
I think we collectively have a little bit of OCD, so it's
Hey, that's the way, you know. Hey, you guys seem like,
the infrastructure is the most helpful part, to be
Right.
honest. Because
Okay.
this is the best room for them.
yeah.
damn right. I was definitely telling her the high ceiling aspect of
Yeah.
this place. What was this before it was Birdie Gs?
It was the Santa Monica Museum of Art.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like
Got
before
you.
that, it was like a mattress manufacturer and like
Right.
a radish farm many moons ago.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This whole Bergamot station is all like art galleries and stuff like that. And
Got
there's,
you.
like, a comedy club that just popped up in the back, the Crow. Which
I
is
saw
pretty
that. I
sick.
saw that. So I'm gonna put this in your head right now. So next year for your 8 days of Hanukkah, we're gonna do post games in that fucking theater right
nice.
there.
Nice.
So you, the chef, Jeremy, whoever, boom, on the stage, just an idea. Help us out. And then hopefully we can get there. You know what I'm saying? Because I truly do feel like you guys, that's a big, daunting project to do. Guest chefs. Is it back to back?
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks, 4 days in a row each week. So
Right.
basically Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, are you open for regular service?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little about that. How do you, how do you treat a guest chef, basically? I'll just ask you, for all the cooks and chefs out there who are trying to do joint dinners, what's the best way to take care of a visiting chef?
Don't say no.
Right.
I mean, we're pretty good about the yes chef mentality.
Yeah.
Which, say whatever you want about it. It is. Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be like a guest chef at other restaurants with
Right.
Chef Fox and in other capacities, and it's disorienting, and you don't know where anything is. Everything takes you about twice as long to do.
Right.
So keeping that in mind, it's like how do we make it as easy for them as like we can?
Right.
That we always encourage people to prep as much and bring as much, even if they're coming from afar, because it's very helpful to prep
Cuts the variables.
Cuts the variables. You know what you're working with. There are certain ingredients that you know in your area, but we just try to be as accommodating as possible. Like,
Right.
how do you like your coffee? Do you want something to eat? Just always anticipating what they want, and making sure the lines of communication are open, because things are going to happen.
Definitely.
So if something doesn't arrive, tell them as early as possible.
Yeah.
But just, yeah, really, like if they want it, they got it.
Right.
Like if you want $1,000 worth of uni, great.
Okay,
You're gonna
we're
get
doing it.
We're gonna
Right.
do it. Like, food costs be damned. We'll figure it out.
Right. I mean, it's Chanukah. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, hey, we're celebrating out
Yeah.
here, So I definitely dig that for sure. And you see a lot of these types of concepts popping up. 12 Days of Christmas in Meadowood,
Yeah.
8 Days of Hanukkah here. And to tell you, from being a cook during that time, that's invaluable for them because they're doing 8 days of staging without having to leave the building.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you're in the process of, you don't really see the value,
Yeah.
but then later years you're like, oh, I'm doing this now. Oh, I remember that,
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole process is so much work, at least like on our end, in terms of, making sure that everybody has the information that they need to have. Like,
Right.
we have like a whole nerd-tastic packet that went out, and this is how much we need, and this is how many servings you're going to do, and expect this for service and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. So they had as much information as we possibly could give them, like before they even stepped in the building. This was months out, and so I think that having that planning was really, really helpful with that. And at the same time, when you're in it, you're just like, you have no concept of what is happening besides like just make it happen, like whatever we have to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's always like the week after we're just like, holy shit, we cooked with Sean Brock.
Yeah. It's looking dope, right? Yeah. And then after you're like, we're pretty badass.
Yeah.
We like pulled that off. And I'm sure as, the managing team, you guys are working around the clock to make this happen, because you just need to,
Yeah.
which I was reading your bio a bit, and I just want to pull it up here so I have the right name. because you guys make an effort to do to work in a trauma-informed kitchen leadership, right? I was just reading that. I was like, I've never heard those words put together, and I just want to get into what that is all about and what that effort is.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very simply, it's just like acknowledging that like trauma exists, and like different things traumatize different people differently.
Right.
And so just with the knowledge that basically like people have baggage, and it's our job to make sure that we're not behaving in a way that kind of takes advantage of that.
Right.
So just like understanding, you know, somebody might have a certain reaction to something you say, you know, how can you say it as neutrally as possible?
Right.
You know, if somebody is like quote unquote triggered, not to use like pop psychology words.
Hey,
but
it's
like,
all good.
If they are, you know, how do you help them regulate? You know, it's just that type of thing. Like basically, like you don't know what somebody's been through, so trying to not like overly gently, but just, don't be a dick.
Right.
It's basically don't be an asshole.
Right. You're finding that balance.
Yeah.
You know.
And certainly like don't try to create moments
Right.
that are traumatizing for somebody for them to learn a lesson. Like
Right.
Like don't like if somebody's pan handle isn't correct, don't knock the pan on the ground and scream at them. Because guaranteed they won't do that again.
Right.
For sure. But like that's probably not the best way from point A to point B.
No. Then they're just gonna do it to another person.
Exactly.
And depending on the person, it could be worse. You know.
I mean, and I'm not gonna claim I'm an angel. Like I've like lost my cool before.
For
like
sure.
Things happen. And throughout my career, I've like watched people emulate my worst moments.
Right.
And I'm like, oh God.
Right.
That's what they took out
You
of
learned that
this.
from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a cook call me recently, and he was like thanking me for the OCD that I instilled in him. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing, you know, because now sometimes when you go somewhere, you like can't get over certain details, and it makes you upset. And it's like, I don't wish this on anybody, you know? Yeah, I do like detail-oriented people, but there's also a line that you can cross, and it can get very, very weird.
Well, and I think we've all like encountered restaurants where it was rough. You know what I mean? Like it was really rough, and there was so much happening with other sectors of business where it was like you saw the Me Too movement, all of these things, and it's like, well, why is the restaurant industry the one that is like not acknowledging that, hey, like we've got some issues to work out, and just because we went through it, you know, doesn't mean that they have to. And I think that's been kind of like our biggest reminder for ourselves is like, yeah, you know what, me and Matt both, like we've both had instances where it's like, yeah, that was not the best interaction that I had with the chef, you know, and I don't feel great about any of this.
Right.
And, you know, how do we kind of lead from a place of empathy and understanding so that we still get the same outcome, but we're not doing it in a way that is gonna fuck somebody up. You know what I mean?
Right. Cause them to go to therapy and be
Yeah.
like, my chef.
Yeah.
I've been there, man. I've been there. You know, I've driven home in the middle of the night in tears, like, I'll never make it. Like, I can't cook. I can't. Whatever the chef said to me that night is like what you take home with you.
Yeah.
And you beat yourself up a lot, you know? And I guess the biggest question that I have, and I don't know that I have an answer, is like, can you create, let's just use him as an example, a Jeremy Fox, right? Without the way that it was, you know, because ultimately, like, you're going to the 4-day work week, right? There's a certain amount of hours it takes to perfect something, right? So if you're cutting those hours, how do you get to that level of expertise, you know? And that's just my question. And I'm just curious, like, do you have not an answer, but an idea of what could maybe be, you know, I could be wrong.
I mean, no, I mean, you're 100% right. And kind of tangentially, that's why, like, when cooks get bored working a station for 5 months, I'm like, look at like a master, like woodworker.
Right.
Like they've made the same chair
Yeah.
far more times than you've cooked a steak.
Damn right.
And like that's the whole aspect of mastery.
Right.
For us in this like particular instance, it was kind of a trade-off. So yes, everyone works a 4-day week, but everyone comes in a couple hours earlier than they were before. And there's no prep team.
Okay.
So
Everybody's owning the product.
yeah, and there's no. I used to be of the mindset of like there are certain projects that only the chefs can touch, you know, protein butchery, certain sauces, things like that, which I think is pretty like classical in a lot of kitchens. But that out of like need to delegate, but also kind of improving everyone's skill sets, like that doesn't. Those walls have kind of been dissolved. So like you do all your own butchery,
Right.
all your own sauce work. So, you know, the trade-off is like, yes, you work one less day a week, but everyone's here still like, you know, 12 hours a day. Everyone's here from like 12 to 12. So it's a long day.
Right.
And
I'd rather have it that way.
well, me too.
That's amazing.
Me too.
You know?
I mean, I remember working 5, 12, 13-hour days as a cook, and some of that being off the clock.
Right.
But so it's that's the trade-off is like you're not walking in at 2:30 with a bunch of wrapped 6 pans made by a crew and you like haven't seen the start to finish.
Right.
You don't really have a connection with it. You're kind of a robot. You cut some herbs, you do some finer knife work, and then you start service. Here it's like, okay, I need to think about, I got to make au poivre in 3 days. Do I have enough meat jus? Do I like, okay, great. I need meat jus. Do we have chicken stock? I need to talk to the station next to me. They're making matzo balls. Do we have enough chicken stock to share? Like, it is a great example and kind of like just practice in being a chef and like knowing when you have to bring things into order and how far out you have to be, which I think is usually reserved for like those super awesome prep cooks that like you can never live without.
Yeah. There's always one of them.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So, you know, it is, you learn those things that those are the skills that a lot of people have. And over the years, I've seen a lot of cooks like, you know, want to forego service and the excitement of service to like become a prep cook so they can learn how to like quote unquote really cook.
Right.
And I think you get both here. You have the lead up to service. You've got that anxiety. You've got that like fun stress. And you've had to make everything to get there.
Right.
You're not going to throw away a cup of sauce now.
No, exactly. And you're right about that. Or anything.
Yeah.
It's like easy to throw away like if the bottom of the quarter cup is just not full. And you're just like, instead of putting in a C cup, you're like, I'll cut more tomorrow.
Exactly.
And that is a big waste, you know, of everyone's time. Because you ordered it, now they're just throwing it away on the other end. You're losing money. You're like, where's the money going? I don't know.
And I think honestly, like for us, we're not trying to make automatons here. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's kind of been
automatons. Is that
automatons?
What is that?
Like people who, you know, they just
Robots.
are on
It's a
auto.
robot in disguise.
You know, you give them a
AI.
specific line of code and that's what they go and do and they execute. Like we are trying to teach people to think for themselves. And, and to be perfectly honest, I actually think it's going to create better chefs because not only are we really trying to focus on ensuring that like they are a whole person mentally, right? But we're also trying to ensure that they are really starting to learn not just the one portion of the kitchen that they're responsible for, but they're trying to learn like the entire operation.
A to Z.
So it's really having that big picture mentality that that I personally think will create better chefs going forward and more chefs who are going to be opening their own businesses and doing their own things. And instead of it being kind of like attached to like one person and you just have little mini copies of that one person over and over again. You know? So, I mean, I think that's really the reason why mental health was a really big part of this in doing the 4-day work week. But it was also like, hey, we really want to create people who can go and do outside of these walls.
Right.
You know?
Well, you're absolutely right because at the end of the day, they're representing you when they're out in the world, you know? And the worst thing that I've ever seen in my career as a chef is like you see this resume, the greatest restaurants in the world are on it, and the person's just a shit cook and a shit person, to be honest. And I'm like, how did they get here? You know? And it just like is astounding to me, right? But then again, you read the resume, it's like 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months. And for sure, take 2 years and do that, but it can't be a 15-year just extravaganza of moving around. You know what I mean? How long have you guys worked for Jeremy in total for the company?
I'm coming up on my 5th year.
5th year? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Birdie Gs open went 2019, correct?
2019.
Yeah.
Got it. So you worked with him before this open, no?
No, so
before?
I mean, when Birdie's right before Birdie this restaurant turning 5 is
Right.
when I hit 5 years.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I started a couple months before opening.
Okay, cool. And at that time, Brittany Cassidy opening CDC, coming from Rustic Canyon. Where did you work before you came here?
Is that Michael's?
Michael's.
Yeah.
Like the craft paper store?
No. That's. Yeah, I worked at the glitter section.
Hey, I can see it.
The like almost 50-year-old Santa Monica restaurant now.
Okay, got you. I'm not really familiar with that. You know, Rustic Canyon basically takes, for me, just as a cook from the outside looking in, you don't really, you know, you got to do your deep dive.
Yeah.
But Jeremy Fox has just had this place on lockdown for so long that I'm like, who else? You know, but obviously there's so many others, you know. Has it been weird sort of having Funky step into the mix? Right now you got like 2 chefs kind of on this side of things, because usually it's like downtown LA and then Santa Monica is so separated. Like, tell me this, you guys live here in Santa Monica?
Yeah. I live in Westchester.
Okay, got you.
15 minutes away.
15 minutes
LAX.
away.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so you do come from that side of things.
Yeah.
Because I find that people that live in downtown LA are like, I don't go to Santa Monica ever.
So LAX is actually south of here.
Right.
Still on the west coast, like the west part of LA.
Okay, got
It's
you.
still
I'm
considered
getting
West
lost
LA.
in the map here.
No, you're good. If I lived in downtown, I either wouldn't live in downtown if I worked here, or I wouldn't work here if I lived in downtown.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
I
That's a good way
used
to
to
put it.
live in Long Beach for like 2 years when I was working here.
Okay.
And Long Beach is pretty much equidistant
Mm-hmm.
from here to downtown LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it is, the traffic's worse though.
Oh, really?
Like, I mean, I was commuting 32 miles every day, one way.
Like an
you
hour and
know?
a half.
Yeah. And like, whatever, it's fine. But once I moved up here, I was like, oh, no, it's real. Like, I never go to downtown because it takes forever.
Right.
It's like 2.5 hours just to get to downtown from
Mm-hmm.
Santa Monica. So it's a hurdle, I think. You know, it's definitely, like, there's really great places in downtown. Like,
Yeah.
Yongbon, we love Yongbon. They're
Right.
amazing. They're in the arts district. It's much closer to downtown, so it's a lot harder to get out there. We have a lot
Definitely.
more clientele that are like, yeah, you know, we would come more often, but, you know, we live in K-Town or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Got it.
it's
That's
hard.
why you got to do more, you know, special events, baby. Come
Yeah.
on out. 8 nights at Chanukah, you know? Hey. Cool. So where do you guys eat when you guys aren't here? You know, where's other than Yangban? I mean, where are you?
That's a really tough question.
And I don't want to hear like the eater list. I want to hear
No,
like the spot, like the ramen spot, the hole in the wall place where you go where you know no one in the industry will see you go, you know?
There's this really kick-ass taco cart that is right behind my house.
Okay.
That is
Not very far.
so good. It's in Brentwood technically. It's like usually right behind the Ralphs on Wilshire.
Yeah.
And it's like this family, and their salsas, like, oh,
Killer.
I can't. It's everything is good. Everything is good. That's usually what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I normally get takeout from Sanandong.
Okay.
Yeah, like I normally just drink broth on my
Right.
days off.
I guess stay hydrated, chef. It's
like,
fine.
Yeah, it's like how can I find the clearest? It's like white soup with rice cakes.
Right.
Or I'll like try to find a hand roll. Oh, you know where Odafuku and Gardena, which is not like really a secret or anything like that, and Eater's definitely written about it and all
Right.
that, but it's really good. I mean, if I want soba, I'll go there. It's izakaya, so you kind of get like a good mix of like all the things if you're craving that type of Japanese food.
Right.
That's where I'll go, or
That's
I get
dope.
takeout from Sanandong
Oh hell yeah! I'm a
because they do 24-hour takeout too,
what?
which is rare in LA.
Well, you think about, I'm envisioning that kitchen at 3 a.m, like that cook.
I don't want to think about
Just
that.
like sitting there on his phone, just like wait for that order to come in, order comes in.
They're like slammed.
Yeah.
They're
like-
like there's because like
That's
they do
crazy.
It's in K-Town.
Yeah.
They have a couple locations. They do Galbi Jim, the like
Okay.
spicy pork, and they do the cheese on top and all that. That I have to call out sick for 2 weeks so I eat that because like I've got a delicate constitution
Right.
when it comes to my stomach.
There you go.
It's like anything mildly spicy and Chef Matt's gone. He's
Yeah.
done. It's really good, but it will take me down. So I just get rice cake soup. But
that.
there's like, throngs of drunk people at 3 a.m. They have a breakfast special at 6 a.m.
Really?
If we get out late here, like there used to be a time when, get out really late with your sous chefs.
Going over there.
It's 3 a.m. Nothing's open. I don't do junk food like Taco Bell and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Again, like I just have to take out an insurance claim if I eat any of that. So we'll just go there and basically sleep in a booth and eat Korean food.
There you go. Korean food is the great, it brings people together. Asian food of any kind, really.
Yeah.
It's just like, you got the what's that spinning thing called again?
The lazy
Oh,
Yeah,
Susan.
Lazy Susan. There you go. Yeah. And those types of spots are fucking fire.
Yeah.
Especially for your staff because you can all sit at one table.
Yeah.
Because it is weird going to restaurants with your staff where you're sitting at separate tables. You're like, this is not really a staff party.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I wish I could talk to Steve over there, but, crazy. So I'm curious to know, because this is the first chef and GM combo that I've had on the show. Could you shed a little light on your relationship? And I want to go, obviously, start with the positive things, but I definitely want to go into when you guys have hardship, when you guys disagree, how do you solve it, and, just so your staff also, because they're going to listen to this, can get a little bit of background into how decisions are made.
You can go first.
There you
You
go.
go first. Oh, okay. Well, I think first and foremost, like, one of the biggest things that I've seen in my career is like a lot of GMs kind of lord this power over the chef, and instead of having this like collaborative moment where it's like, hey, we're in this together, like we are the two most responsible people
Right.
for this restaurant, so let's not work against each other, let's work together.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing was we found that we both love Letterkenny. And
There you go. Common ground.
because we're very different. Like he's like, he loves, rap and hip hop and all that.
Right.
And I'm the metalhead in the corner.
Okay.
And, so it's having two very different personalities
Right.
was interesting at the beginning. But once we found Letterkenny, it was like, we kind of clicked a little bit more.
Okay.
But it is first and foremost, I think, just this idea that I respect him. I know how much work he puts into this restaurant. I know how much work he's put into just becoming a chef, and I truly feel respected by him, which I think is rare, especially in a male-dominated field.
Definitely.
Being a female in a position of leadership, I've never once felt with Matt specifically like ever disrespected in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And that, I think, speaks to him as a person,
Definitely.
just in general. So
Yeah. And shout out to you, because that shit is rampant.
Yeah.
I mean, women just getting disrespected in the food industry. It's like, and I wish I could say I haven't seen it in the last month, but I have seen it. I've had to have conversations with people, and this is just out and about too, just in general.
Yeah.
And so, as a person who's willing to get physical if shit gets fucking dangerous for females, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hear you.
Yeah.
And so, how long have you guys been working together fully? Like 4 years? Basically, you started before her, right? So whenever
Yeah.
she started.
Yeah.
When you started, did you start as GM?
no, I was the AGM here.
Okay.
I actually got hired in March of 2020, so I had about 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Okay, there you go. Did you guys obviously close during pandemic, but did you do takeout or?
Yeah, so Keely like took one for the team, so to speak. She went to one of the other restaurants in the group, And well, you were furloughed for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was furloughed for like 3 months, and then went over to Huckleberry, the bakery concept,
Right.
and was there for about 9 months, and then came back over here. God, when was that? Like 2021?
Yeah, right as we were like doing the final reopen.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was a few back and forths, but COVID.
Right. Hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, props.
Yeah. Honestly.
So yeah, I mean, I remember getting a phone call because like I was also like woefully unaware of what was happening. Like I knew COVID and all that, but like I didn't realize that shutting down was like on the horizon
option,
or anything
yeah.
like that. I was also like in a phase where I just like my entire world was like just trying to operate this kitchen as a sous chef. So I just got a call and it was like, hey, all restaurants, all businesses are getting shut down. We can open for takeout. You can take furlough, or you can, essentially like take a pay cut and come back and work. And I was like, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't think we closed for a single day. Like
Right.
we just flipped it around, tried to sell, our regular menu as takeout. And kind of really didn't stop from there.
Right.
Like I say it with a little bit of envy because I didn't get the like pandemic experience that most people did.
Right. Thank God. Me either. Because I was working too.
I just like came back to work and it was
Same.
just, like it was just fewer
Yeah.
people in the building.
Same. And that's a good, that first person I've met with that perspective, because not a lot of people work during that time.
Yeah.
And as a leader, especially your sous chef, I was chefing at Charter Oak. Motivating people during that time was extremely difficult.
Oh yeah.
Motivating yourself was extremely difficult. And it was weird, for sure, to have that I'm still working energy and everybody else is like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you're like, but wait, I thought we were chefs. You know what I'm saying? And so it became that I was the only one in the room that was a little crazy about like still had the standards and still was going. And everybody's like, what's wrong with you? There's bigger things at play.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know. There's like been war since fucking, since forever. Does it mean that I'm going to cook worse?
Yeah.
I can't let that shit, I can't care, basically. That's what I came up with in 2020. I can't care about that because I have so many things that I have to care about, which is this restaurant, the cooks, whatever. I can't care about what's going on in the world. And it's kind of selfish. And, there was a lot of times where people would be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? But at that point I was like, I don't know. Like, this is so weird and people are dropping like flies and I have no idea. So tomorrow wasn't promised.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just fucking go.
Yeah.
Let's ride, but people were like, slow down, David. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you felt the same.
Yeah. I mean, it was just this undulation between, oh, I have a great idea, let's try it, and why am I even coming in? Like, there were days where I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. What are we doing? What is this?
I sold, it's like, okay, I sold 5 things.
Right.
5 things, not even 5 of one dish, 5 things today. I've been here for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
Literally one
what is
order.
going on?
Yeah.
Had you done takeout before?
No.
What were some of the biggest lessons you learned doing takeout after never doing it, but being in the food industry?
It's like almost even more important to have everything ready.
Yeah.
So like I've got a pretty funny story. I've like been pretty lucky to avoid Chef Fox's wrath.
Right.
He's a pretty nice guy. I'm not gonna frame him as a villain here.
Right. No, he definitely is not. Yeah.
I mean, like we all, things happen. So
Right.
I came back. It was our first day of takeout. In my head, I was like, there's this like global event happening. Nobody's gonna order food. Like everyone's gonna be preoccupied, right?
Yeah.
So we have these like air pots, these like urns that keep our broth hot.
Right.
That you'd put coffee in and things like that. But we have some that we use just for the matzo broth. And I was like, how many people are gonna order matzo balls? So I think there were like 3 of them. I only filled 2 of them. And I left one with hot water in it so that I could like refill it with broth as I needed to.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, okay, the ones labeled broth have broth. The one that's not labeled, why would you even bother? Like, basic kitchen thought. And I bring some matzo balls in a container, and Chef Fox goes to use, like, I guess he had gone through the first two, and he goes to use the one that had hot water.
Ooh.
And then just, like, dumps hot water over this matzo ball. And, like, I definitely heard about it.
Right.
And then, like, I had to, like, fix it. And then, you know, you get trapped with your chef where it's like you do something like that and then nothing's right. So it's like, the next one that came up, like, didn't have enough broth. And it was just this, like,
Right.
really, it was like, I felt so bad. Like, then there was enough broth, but then, like, I put the tape on wrong.
Right.
So
He smelled blood.
I was
Blood
just
in
like,
the
oh
water.
my.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my life for the next couple hours. I just accept it.
I heard that. But I mean, you're still telling that story to this day. So you learned a valuable lesson that day.
Yeah, dude, so, like, your working service, if, like, you run out of something or whatever, you can make it on the fly, you know, if
Definitely.
you've gotten a certain amount of skills.
Definitely.
And with the takeout, there's just, like, no time for that. And people are, like, even less understanding of, like,
Yeah. Because they can text you.
yeah, you tell somebody that their fish is going to take 5 more minutes. They're fine. You might send them something. They're cool at the table. They're in a restaurant.
Right.
But you tell them that they're here 10 minutes early for an order, and you tell them that it's going to be on time, and they're going to bite your head off. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, well, so I just have to be early with everything.
Exactly. That happened to me when I was up at Charter Oak during the same period. And I was like, I just didn't know the sheer amount of to-go containers and shit that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And like we were missing things in bags. And I'm like, what's wrong with us? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never worked to go. That's why.
Yeah.
That's what the fuck's wrong with it, you know?
Yeah.
And so just learning that, and honestly, I got a bad taste in my mouth from it,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm like, we're using way too much paper product.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's like, you know, compostable, whatever. And as we move on into the world and talk about sustainability,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, how can we become sustainable at this point in time, you know? And so, and from a front of house perspective, were you working during the to-go?
I didn't work here during the to-go period.
Okay.
I was over at Huck during that time, but we were doing a bunch of to-go.
Right.
Like, I was having to expo during that time at. It's basically
I've
like
done
a
that too.
breakfast place.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
all of it is just like one counter this big.
Ooh.
You have tickets just all the way down, and you can't miss a single thing in there.
Right.
Because if you miss something, somebody's pissed.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I think the biggest takeaway for me from that particular period was just like the importance of having systems.
Right.
You know, like if you have a system, then you know for a fact that this thing is done and it's done exactly the way it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it quickly, and you can turn your brain off and just go
Right.
because you know the system and it works for everybody. So I think that was like the biggest thing for me was properly training employees to ensure that, like, hey, you didn't check this off. That means it's not in the bag,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which like that person is going to be pissed and they're never going to come again. And maybe we're going to close because if that happens too often,
Right.
like you earn a reputation, you know? So I think definitely for me, it was just like, be detail oriented, have your systems.
Right.
Everything else will fall into place once you get that done.
I gained so much more respect for takeout restaurants, like
Oh yeah.
Chinese places, and just things that I've ordered my whole life. I was like, oh my God, Wawa Kitchen, like,
Yeah.
can't believe you were doing they were super busy. You always see the bags every time I walked in there, and I'd
Yeah.
be like, what the fuck? And now doing it, I was like, wow, it's tough.
And it
for
sucks
sure.
too, because it's like, I know for me, the biggest point of being in restaurants was not having to be stuck in a place where you don't talk to anybody all day.
Right.
You know, it still is that interaction, that face-to-face interaction, that like, hey, we're getting to know you and we're becoming friends and all the things, and having it just be like a 2-second interaction
Yeah.
sucked. It was
Definitely.
demoralizing.
And just the worst part of the interaction, the money
Yeah.
part of it, right?
Yeah.
Just like, fuck you. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, see you later.
And you don't get to see if they like the food
Right,
or
right.
hate it
Yeah.
or, you know, you have no idea. Once it's gone out that door, you're just like, well, okay. I
Yeah.
mean,
And you learn that things don't travel well.
Yep.
You know, like you could have the bombest menu, but if it's not made for takeout, you're
Yep.
fucked.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
And so did you have to change anything around or? Like,
Yeah.
Like matzo ball is easy to recreate to go, right? But like what?
Matzo ball is easy. We did a lot of like very simple, like chopped salad.
Right.
We did our relish tray to go, which is always like tricky because it's like, okay. The thing I don't trust with takeout is like, the second it leaves your door, you do all the things correctly, time and temperature. You know, you have safe practices, and then you put it in somebody's hands, and it's like, okay, great. Like if they leave it out for 6 hours on their counter,
Yeah.
I don't know. That one always just like freaked me out a little bit.
Right.
Like
right.
I just, yeah.
Did we do it or did you do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the person
I mean,
gets sick.
in people's heads, you did it. But
Always.
it's like, it's always just like, please eat it now or just put it in the refrigerator.
Right.
Or put it in an ice bath. No, nobody's going to put it in an ice bath. But
Making ice baths at home.
yeah, I think, I can't remember. We like refused to do fries for a while.
Right.
I don't think we really did fries. And then we did fried chicken for a while, which seemed to work out pretty well. But unless it's soup or salad, it's never gonna travel as well as you would hope it would.
Right.
Yeah, I mean we got smart. We did some things that made sense, but it was really just kind of like, we have a restaurant full of food. How do we make things that people are gonna want to eat and not either have to put it in long-term storage or get rid of it?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And so as far as Birdie G's, menu and things like that, are you talking to Jeremy constantly about the menu, or are you just like making changes, no worries, like it's all good?
The MO is to make changes pretty freely.
Right.
He and I will have conversations. We'll meet occasionally about kind of like directional movement in terms of the menu. But I have the freedom to kind of do things as we see fit day to day.
Right.
We're always encouraged, and more so than a lot of restaurants. So I'll talk a lot of like to people in the industry, peers, and like when I meet new chefs at events, they're like, oh, do you do like a big seasonal change? And that all feels very like too planned to me and almost a little corporate. And I understand why restaurants do that. Like, trust me, there's a lot of like, it's much easier to execute a big menu change when you have it planned in these stages.
Definitely.
But I've always been encouraged to be a little bit more organic. And if you see something that would make a good dish, make the dish, sell it as a special, even if you only have 5 of it.
Right.
Like it's always worth it to be doing new food.
Keeps the cooks engaged.
It does.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, I don't know, we'll probably do, if I'm in a groove, if I'm in a groove and the sous chefs are in a groove, we'll probably make new dishes 1 or 2 a week. Sometimes less frequently.
Right.
But the thing with the Birdie Gs menu is you have this like, I don't know, scaffolding of staple items.
Okay.
So like we're never gonna get rid of the Caesar. It will always have a roast chicken. That might change what the set is, but it was jerk chicken, which was one of our sous chefs, like previous sous chefs of the opening team. His name's Jeremiah. This is jerk chicken for a long time, and then when he left, we switched it to a lemon pepper chicken, and that really hasn't changed.
Right.
So you have these staple items that may get a seasonal update or may get a change when we get really, really bored of it.
Cool.
But those are the things that exist here to create some familiarity for the guests. So it's like you come in and there's always going to be a matzo ball soup. There's always going to be the chicken. You're always going to have the steak frites section. And then among that, we'll add and change different things. You always have some sort of seasonal cold vegetable dish. For a long time, we were making different terrines every week, and it was just kind of like whatever we felt like making. So the specials and pretty much everything around those staple items just change as much as we want them to. And we tend to get bored pretty quickly here and
Right.
want to change things pretty frequently. It's great. It's definitely difficult for the front of house staff.
Yeah, definitely. I was about to ask her, like, how the hell do you keep up with all these changes? And training your staff to, like, just be dynamic and learn.
It's not easy. I think one thing that does work in our favor is, like, I would say most of the staff probably has ADD in some way, shape, or
Okay.
form. So I actually think the constant change is what has kept a lot of people here, because it's not
Right.
boring. You know what I mean? Like, I've worked in so many restaurants. I worked in a restaurant for 7 years. The menu never changed once. And I get it. I understand it. And it works for them. And that's great. But for me, it was like stifling. I was
Right.
so bored,
How do you sell if you're, like, bored?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is the good thing and blah, 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 blah. You're not
Right.
learning about new cooking techniques. You're not learning about anything. And I think that's more the focus of this restaurant more than anything, is that we are a teaching restaurant.
Right.
Whether that is back of house or front of house, we are a teaching restaurant. And my mom was a teacher for many, many years. And so I learned a lot of really cool ways to engage people that seem kind of dumb. Like, we played Jeopardy in pre-shift,
Right.
and that helps them learn the menu. And, you'll have our veteran servers who are, 50 years old playing Jeopardy,
Right.
It's
It's a good way to do it.
It
Make
is
it fun.
though. It
Yeah.
is. It's fun.
Yeah.
The more fun that you have while you're learning, the more engaged you are, the more you will learn.
Right.
So for us, it's really just about making sure that, like, it's tough on front of house management because our menu descriptions are constantly changing, which is like, we always have to have these things updated, and it's available for the staff so they can look at it when they're, coming in for their shift or whatever, and see whatever changes, and they know all of the ingredients and all of the dishes. Because we also have a lot of guests who have allergies who come in,
Definitely.
like crazy
Yeah,
allergies.
and like sesame seeds just start popping up out of nowhere
Oh,
as like a major
Oh
allergen.
no, ours is recently has been fish and mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah. Super, and like to the point where cross contamination is an issue.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that makes it difficult
Yeah,
for sure.
and because we do so many like garums and
Yeah.
all of these things,
A
you
lot
know.
of sneaky,
For sure, yeah. I mean,
sneaky allergies.
you got to.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think in all honesty, like, I think it's one of the things that keeps the staff here is the fact that it is dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah. How big is the team?
See, the kitchen team. It's two sous chefs.
Okay.
Rachel Ulancy and CJ Sullivan, and then junior sous chef. His name's Giancarlo Serrano, and then he's hourly, and then including him, there's probably 11 line cooks.
Okay.
We have 6 or 7 porters at any given time, and then front of house staff is a little bit larger.
Yeah, I would say all in all, we probably have 30-ish servers, support staff, bartenders, hosts, all the things. So,
Got you. And are you creating schedules, like all that? Okay. And you said it was a teaching restaurant. So is there any excursions you guys take? You guys go anywhere? Or bring wine people here or whatever it is?
We do classes.
Right.
I'd like to do. I've been telling Alex Weiser that we'd be doing a tour of his Malibu farm for like far too long now. That we actually need to do it.
Well, you're open 7 days a week.
We're
right?
open 7 days a week.
It's tough to
It's
get
a little
away.
bit
It's
difficult.
tough
I
to
mean,
get away.
I'm always like trying to do the next thing to like bring people in and teach them more. Last year we did a day where everyone signed up in the kitchen, and if they wanted to, they came in and they each had their own pig's head, and we demoed how to debone a pig's head.
That must have been a sight.
And then the next day, one of our cooks described it as peeling a fruit.
Yeah.
It was really weird. He was like better than me, and he had never done it before. And he's like, it's like peeling a fruit.
You know, that's
You're
funny.
a psychopath.
And you're funny that you say that, because there has been a couple projects in my life as a chef that have been really tough. And it takes me until someone puts it in a perspective like that, that I'm like, oh, and then I get it. And then I can do it quickly. And it just takes a person to say some sick shit like that to make you go. Yeah. So that's dope. Where'd you get the pig heads from?
Peas and Barnett.
Okay.
Yeah, Oliver.
Got it.
Yeah, so we deboned them, we brined them, we roll them up.
Right.
We basically made like copa de testa.
Yeah.
And then that went on the menu.
Okay.
But also like, and this is a teaching moment on multiple levels where I encourage everyone here to, if they want to make a new dish, make a new dish.
Definitely.
Like few requirements, you have to be set up. You know, so it teaches you how do you find time in your day to do those things.
Right.
And then if you want to make a new dish, I'm here to talk to you about it. I'm here to, if you want to talk about the idea, I'll sit down with you and talk about the idea. You know, but I'll order the things for you. You know, we can go to the market together, and that's about where it stops.
Right.
Because, you know, when you're a chef, you know, if you're a CDC and you have somebody kind of overseeing what you're doing and kind of giving you guidance, and you want to do a new dish, they're not going to be here being like, okay, now is the time to do the new dish. It's like, no, you have to write the schedule, you have to make sure everything's good, and then you have to make the new food. So if you want to make the new dish, you have to make it.
Right.
And I'll give you feedback, and we'll work on the next iteration, but like, I'm not going to be like, okay, now it's time.
Right.
You have some time, you should work on this. Like that, you kind of have to have like the self-starting mindset there.
Right.
And I'll give you all the support. Again, you'll have all the infrastructure to be able to do it. But if you're telling me you want to make a new dish and you never do the thing, I can't really help you there.
Right. You can't do it for them.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a bit like the Montessori approach. Like, people are going to learn what they're interested in.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have done with the front of house as well. Like, we're going to be having a wine class coming up in the end of the month. Back of house is invited. They're more than welcome to come if they'd like to. It's an hour long. You know, our sommelier will talk about whatever. And the biggest thing is, like, she put out a message saying, hey, like, what are you guys interested in? What do you want to learn? And it's pretty apparent, especially for our team, that it's like, if you don't want to learn about it, you're not going to learn about it. And I think it's also that little bit of that ADHD part as well, where it's like, if you're not interested in something, you're not going to give a shit.
Right.
You know, you're just going to sit there blankly and just stare at Instagram or whatever, you know? So we really kind of foster this environment where it's like, there are no stupid questions. You know, ask any question that you possibly have. We're not going to make you feel like an asshole because you asked something that maybe you should have learned a long time ago, you know?
Right.
But the staff comes to us with these ideas and we're like, yeah, great. Let's figure it out together.
Got it.
You know?
Yeah. That's dope. So you guys include, do you have any sous chefs? You have any people under you?
I do. I have an AGM. I have a service manager. I've got a really wonderful events manager who takes care of like all of the big events that we do.
That's tough. That's like, because you got to deal with chef and you got to deal with you, and it's like, it's hard to get answers. Yeah. And it's just like, you know.
Yeah,
definitely a difficult job.
And the space is hard too.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
space is definitely something where it's like, we have a private dining room, but you know, people want to be in the main dining room and feel that energy and that kind of stuff. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, I have a events manager, and then Stephanie Redding, who is our bar manager, and Demetria, who is our sommelier. So that's kind of like my team of people. And you know, Demi knows so much about wine. You know, she's really learning how to do a program herself, but also like teaching the rest of the staff. And Steph is incredibly knowledgeable about liquor. One of her bartenders does like a Twitch, just kind of about the history of cocktails and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's dope. On Twitch?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's
the cook on Twitch now.
Bro, that's the future.
Yeah, it is.
I'm telling you, get a camera up there and just stream your service. I'm telling you, in about a year's time, you'll have a bunch of subscribers and making money off Twitch.
Love that.
Like, there's places that are doing that right now, and They got the in real life. That's what people are into. So people are actually like filming themselves 24/7 and putting it on there and making millions. You know, but honestly, that's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, as any food influencers, people think like, oh, that's easy. I'm like, now that I'm editing podcasts and shit, I'm like, that shit is hard, and I don't want to do that. And, you know, and I went to a tasting menu recently. It was 12 of us, very intimate. But there was this one influencer who like whole setup. I mean, you couldn't even talk to her because she had her camera in front of her, and she's like eating really dramatically in front of the camera. And I'm like, I don't know that I would want to eat that way. You know, I would love the easy money. You know, that's easy, right? Yeah. But like, I don't know that I would want to ruin it. You know, like sometimes I look at cooking and I'm like, I love it so much that I know at some point I can't do it anymore as a job.
Yeah.
You know, because it'll take it away from me a little bit. Yeah. And just like we said about the transactions, like just the fact that there's like money involved in shit kind of takes the passion away from it. Yeah. How do you guys distribute that passion? You know, like as you said, you're working in this fair kitchen environment where you can't really fully go out, right, and like just let all your emotions out, which is how it used to be, for the good and the bad, right? Because let's not just say that it was all bad, because there was those times where in those kitchens everyone was like had this like energy, like a fucking you know, machine that just devoured everything in this place. And do you guys I forget what the fuck I was saying. That's my ADHD brain, guys.
No, you're good.
Sucio talk, baby. What do you want? At some point, I'm gonna have to get better at talking.
No, you're fine.
You're great.
I think there is a misconception though when it comes to this idea of like, just because we're not screaming and yelling doesn't mean that we don't have those positive moments either. I mean,
damn right.
During 8 nights,
right.
I mean, we were doing what, 250, 300 covers a night, and doing events on top of that.
300 covers at a guest chef dinner?
That's correct.
My favorite
like
is all the
Charter
people,
Oak shit.
My favorite is all the people who came from like 1-2 star places, and you tell them what you're about to do in covers, and they just look at you with like this. You're like, these great chefs, and this is like fear.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, like we got this.
It will be fine. Trust me.
How many does this dining room seat?
So we used to in the past, like pre-pandemic, we did anywhere from 350 to 400 covers a night. Okay. Flat seating, I believe we can do 125 covers.
Okay.
But we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to not do as much of the turn and burn mentality. We want people to come in and have a good time and not have to be out in an hour for a 2-top.
Right.
So our sweet spot is kind of like 200, 250. And honestly, like in those moments, and especially in 8 nights, just watching the team doing what they were doing.
Damn right.
I can't even tell you, like, my heart just so proud.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just the moment of like, wow, like this is what we've all collectively been working for, and they're doing it, and they're doing it well. And even though there's sometimes like hiccups that happen, like there was one night where a pickup ended up taking a little bit longer than we initially thought it was going to.
Right.
And, you know, I had flashbacks to terrible services in the past and like had that PTSD moment of, oh fuck, you know?
Yeah.
But literally it was just like, chef, what is the pickup time? 45 minutes. All right, cool. Told the whole staff literally within the matter of probably 20 minutes where things kind of started to get shaky. After that 20 minutes of just like telling the staff, hey, this is going to be a 45-minute pickup time, smooth sailing the rest of the night.
Right.
And like, I think that's a testament not only to like our collaboration in terms of being so strong front of house and back of house, but like that is passion from our team. That is our team. They did that. That is dope.
Hell yeah. Do you guys collaborate with any of the other restaurants in the group? Rustic Canyon, you know, any of the places? Do you guys have a shared recipe drive? Basically is what I'm asking.
Rustic and Birdie's have a shared... Well, no, we don't. Chef Fox has access to the Birdie Gs recipe drive.
Right.
Well, it's actually one of my former sous chefs is now a sous at Rustic, so there's a lot of like information trading.
Okay.
Chef Fox is gonna hate this, but I have like I like feel personally competitive
Yeah.
with every restaurant.
Okay.
Like I want everyone to do well.
Obviously, yeah.
I even, like restaurants outside of the group. If restaurants are doing well, then every restaurant's doing well for the most part. You never want to be like, I hope this person's slow. Well, it doesn't work that way. It's not like if this person's slow, you're going to be busy.
Yeah. I agree.
If more restaurants are busy, typically
Yeah.
it benefits the entire landscape. But I feel personally competitive with Chef Fox.
I love that. Well, look, at the end of the day, I was talking to my boy Jeff Davis, who has a restaurant called Birdie up in Oakland. Amazing restaurant. Went last week. And I want to bring back beef. Like, you listen to hip hop. Beef sells records.
That's true.
So, right? So I want to be, if I was Jeremy Fox at fucking Birdie Gs, I'd take a picture, or at Rustic, I'd take a picture of something and be like, you can't do this, Matt. Let's see it. You know what I mean? Some beef. I was telling him when I was opening a restaurant a couple months ago, it didn't happen, but I wanted to basically call him out on his Nashville fried rabbit. And I was like, fuck your Nashville fried rabbit. I have a better one. And just get people talking about it. Like, oh, okay. Well, then you're influencing, like, people are going to go to Rustic, try that dish, and then they're going to go here and try, that same dish in your iteration. Yeah. And I think that is where we're kind of lacking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're so afraid and so sensitive to talk shit on another chef's food, and you know how it is. Like, I fear nothing. There was a couple times during 12 days where I would tell either the cook or the sous chef, like, oh, did you like the dish? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't. And I'm not being rude. It's just I'm one person.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't bring anything down, Yeah. And that's the thing about being sensitive about bad reviews. Like, look, we're going to get bad reviews. That's it. You can't make everyone happy, and some people leave the house unhappy and are just going to be that way, you know? And so it took me a long time to not take those personal. Yeah. Because they'll literally call you out by name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And this person did this, and you're like, oh, no, not good,
Yeah.
How do you guys come back from bad reviews? Are you guys calling them?
Oh, man. I would say that recovery is probably like our specialty.
Okay.
I like a challenge, and obviously Matt does as well.
Right.
And I think, there's a lot of times that guests will come in here and they're having a bad day. You know what I mean? They're having a bad day, and there's very little that you can do about it. Mm-hmm. I take that as a personal challenge. Like, to me, restaurants are a philosophy, and I know, Matt, you don't agree with this, so that's totally fine.
Okay, we got some. Okay, let's go.
It's interesting because there's like a part of it where he's very pragmatic in certain ways, and I'm a little bit more kind of ethereal in certain ways.
Right.
And for me, restaurants are really about, like, I can't change the world. I am personally not ever going to be able to change the world.
Right.
But what I can do is change my little corner of the world. Mm-hmm. And I can show people kindness when they're having bad days. And I can try my best to do whatever is in my power to do to try and change somebody's day for the better. And I think that's why we are so good at recoveries, is because we have an understanding of, like, hey, like, the world is a fucked up place.
Damn right.
It is fucked up. And there's so much, every single day, there's just more and more shit happening. And, like, the fact that people even come in here with a smile on their face, I think is a testament to just the human spirit in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's really about, like, hey, like, how can we make this person feel a little bit better today? How can we be a little bit kinder? How can they show that kindness then going out in their own lives? Yeah. And kind of create this almost like mycellular kindness transaction throughout the world. Right. So for me, recoveries, it's very much like, I'm going to do my best to make you my best friend. Mm-hmm. And we've had quite a few, there's definitely, there are some people who come in and there's nothing you can do. Right. And that's okay. That's on you at that point.
Yeah.
It's no longer on me. But we have quite a few guests who like are regulars now, who started out with, like, not the greatest experience. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the best friendships start, and, like, in the kitchen especially, because you're like, fuck that guy, kind of, what I mean? Like, I'm going to take his job, or, like, whatever it is, that competitiveness. It's not a bad thing. You're not looking to, like, put them out on the street or put them out on the street. but it's definitely feeds the energy of like, we need to get better, right? And I think now just listening to all this and putting it all into perspective and being in this room and just looking at the Hoshigakis, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything, you know? And like you guys across the board are communicating the same thing. And that is very hard to find, even in the best GM chef relationships, you know?
Yeah,
So.
I think we're pretty lucky. I mean, I feel personally very lucky to have Matt as, you know, a partner in this. And, you know, everybody disagrees.
Right.
You know, I think that that's one thing that we're really good about is like overall communication, you know?
Seeing each other's perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's problematic if you agree on too many things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's just like, I don't know.
There needs to be the push and pull. There's
You don't want to be
always
surrounded by yes people.
Yeah.
damn right.
And so it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you are, then nothing changes and you're
All right.
typically not challenged to think in a different way. And it's helpful as a chef to have somebody else be right.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're taught that, like, you know, I was taught like the chef's always right.
right.
And I think that's damaging and problematic, but more so it's just like, yeah, you know, it's, if we agreed on everything, it would be very boring and probably less good would come out of that. But I mean, with that, you have to hear each other out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know, like that's where the good relationship comes into play. It's like, okay, if you guys disagree, cool. Can you find a way to come to a conclusion? Not even an agreement, but a conclusion. Like, this is what we're gonna do.
Right. Is that how you take care of sort of like if the staff is having a disagreement about something, you know, how do you coach that thing?
I think you have to understand that front of house people and back of house people are very different people.
Definitely.
You know, front of house, you are dealing in emotional transactions.
Yeah.
Every single
all
day
day long. Yeah.
And so you have to approach front of house a little bit differently than you have to approach back of house. And for me, it's about understanding that I'm not always right.
Right.
I'm not always right. It's impossible. I'm human. I'm going to fail. I'm going to make mistakes. And I extend that to my staff as well. You know, you are human. You are going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. And that's okay. As long as we are learning from those mistakes, that is the only thing that matters.
Okay.
You know, if it's a repetitive behavior, then it's like, okay, we got to figure this out. But I think for front of house, it's much more about like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, let's have a conversation. Like, why are you habitually late? Like,
Right.
what's happening in your personal life that's making this the case? How can we help you get here on time? You know? And it's not easy because you're having to play therapist a lot more than you probably want to.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, because I even look at therapists and I'm like, you're taking on that trauma.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you're taking on that shit. How do you then cleanse it all
Yeah.
away?
It's called countertransference.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that you heavily avoid. It's like really good therapists are really good at not having countertransference.
Really?
Yeah.
And so how do you know this word just like off the top of your head?
My
What do you-
wife's a therapist.
Okay, got you. I'm like, what do you...
Yeah, that's another really good thing.
Okay.
His wife is a therapist.
And so
that-
there's an actual like study up on how to do this.
Yeah,
There's,
that's
like,
like,
rules and-
when you go to grad school, like part of your curriculum, like one of the things is countertransference, and like that's why the best therapists also have therapists.
Right.
It's also helpful, like as a therapist, you can have a supervisor, not in like an administrative role, but as like somebody to kind of help you take
Right.
that like 10,000 foot view. But yeah, I mean, not to get too much into it because it's not my profession. And
Right.
I know more than the average person, but not as much as a trained professional. It's not about you.
Right.
This is not about you.
Yeah.
Like your client can scream at you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
Your client can say it's about you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
So how do you listen
Right.
and not take that home with you? I mean, it's harder than it seems, but it's also easier than it seems. It's very simple. But yeah, I mean, that's the word. It's kind of transference.
Okay. Do you find yourself employing some of the, like, do you find yourself asking your wife, like, hey, I got this problem. I need some help me, you know? She gives you a different perspective in that well-learned, like, I know the mind, you know?
Ish.
Okay.
Ish. It's kind of a rule, a boundary to not really bring much work home.
Okay. That's a dope boundary.
Yeah. It's helpful because especially like much earlier in my career, I would come home and just spiral and like replay scenarios and like get really loud and like,
Right.
you know, my wife's like, it's 2 a.m. and you're really loud.
Right.
So I am a big proponent of therapy. I go to a lot of it myself.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like the responsible thing to do. If you're fortunate enough and privileged enough to like have access to therapy, it's expensive.
Right.
It's often not covered by healthcare.
Right.
It's, you know, you got to shop around for a therapist that matches well with you, and so
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
I was in therapy a little bit as a kid just because I was doing really bad in school. My mom didn't, you know, she didn't know why. And then she got transferred to another place. So she was like, stop. And this was after like maybe 6 sessions. And I was like, oh, this is fake. Like,
Yeah.
it's transactional.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, you care, but you don't care enough to like, you know, risk your therapy license, you know, over like
Yeah.
going out and actively helping me.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, I do think that therapy works because it does push you to kind of think through the things and make your own conclusions.
Yeah.
And it definitely helps to have somebody like buffer that. you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
I think it's funny too because it's like, for you, your wife is like very much like work is a work.
Yeah.
Whereas my partner, like, I am very, very lucky to have a partner who like, I'll literally sit there for an hour after service and I'll be like, "What happened today?" You know,
He's like, I got my coffee.
Give me
I'm
the
like,
tea.
Yeah, he's like, "What happened today?" And like we talk through all of the scenarios. And he is so kind and wonderful to do that for me. You know, because as a GM and this is even as a head chef, you know, there's a lot of times where you have moments where you can't talk about your feelings. You can't
Yeah.
talk about a situation, you know? And so having that for me at least has been very, very helpful.
Right.
So I'm pretty lucky in that regards.
Hell yeah.
But-
We're doing good on time, right? We're not.
Yeah, we're
No,
fine.
you're fine.
We're
Okay.
fine.
Amazing.
I was just trying to see what time it was.
Oh no worry. Me too. Sometimes I get lost in the thing, but I'm like, oh my god.
It's that time blindness.
But yeah, these guys are getting in here and
Yeah.
and starting up the line. Are you guys starting a fire over there?
Yeah.
We'll start the fire in a couple hours.
Okay, got it. Let's not make it too hot in here.
Yeah.
Does it get hot? Like ambient?
Right
Right
if
around it,
If
right?
you're next to the grill,
Just
yeah.
that? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But it's also like, you know, there's a separate hood for the grill because it's
yeah, the
like
type
solid fuel,
type
and
A or
then-
whatever the
when the grill starts, we have to turn on max air,
right.
and then it gets.
Then you
really
can't
loud.
hear anybody.
You can't hear shit.
No.
Yeah.
It's,
Do you guys have headsets? or
No.
anything? Okay,
God, no.
got you.
No.
We're
Yeah,
loud.
We had to do that shit at fucking Charter Oak, and I
Yeah.
hated the headset because half the time the issues with service would come from that.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then we're already late. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
No.
hard, like, for front of house, because I've worked several places where headsets were a thing, and you're like talking to a guest, and then you have somebody talking in your ear,
Yeah.
and you're just like, what do I do here? I need to respond to this, but also if I respond to this person is going to think I'm an asshole. You know, I hate headsets. I would never ever work in a place with headsets ever again.
I hear you. It almost made me turn it away, but I was like, you know what? It's a good opportunity. Let me see. You know.
We
That's
just
fair.
yell here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I like it.
No, I mean it's
Energy.
talk about bad reviews. One of the most
Oh, you've gotten that review.
one of the
Same-
most
same
common
chef.
bad reviews is like, the chef is so loud, and I don't understand why the entire kitchen, it just really seems performative. And it's like,
this
no.
is not a pit stop.
Yeah.
It's like, look, we need to communicate.
Right.
And there's a station in the back,
It's fucking
and
loud.
I don't have time to walk over there.
Right.
So I have to be loud enough for them to hear me.
Hey, all good, bro. It's all good.
Yeah.
But people just don't understand. Same thing.
I mean, I will say once the bear came out, it
Right.
did get a little bit better for us because then people were like,
They're
oh,
like-
this is great. I understand how a kitchen is
Yeah,
working
right.
now, you
This is
know?
like-
So exciting.
Yeah.
The Bear
exactly.
takes like 6 years of trauma and condenses it to fucking 30 minutes. You know, it's like all the bad moments that ever happened in
Yeah.
one, and people are like, is
Yeah.
that really how it is? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but like one of those things happened like a day every like 2 months. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, you know, severe chaos all the time.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're opening, unless you're, you know, depends.
My
Depends where
favorite
you're
thing
at.
about the Bear when guests come in, I was like, so did it raise your blood pressure? Like, how were you having a mild panic attack
Yeah.
while watching it?
Yeah.
Because every single one of us, I guarantee you, every single one of us fell asleep watching that show just because it's like,
Definitely.
it's not that it's boring. It's a great show. People really, really love it. But for us, it's like the chaos. We're so used to it, you
Yeah.
know, that it's just like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep
exactly.
now, you know?
It's like falling asleep to action movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
exactly.
I haven't watched the second season. I watched the first. It's like a really guilty pleasure. It was
Right.
like eating junk food.
Right.
It's like, it was just like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody gets it.
Oh my God. Screaming and,
Yeah.
That one part with the kill yourself. That one.
oh my God.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Now I
but
can't,
real.
now I can't buy my apron though. So
Right, right.
I have more issue than not with the Bear.
There you go. I've seen the second season. Now they got signed up for a third season. And, you know, coinciding with like things like shows and things like that, awards. Like, are you guys striving to like, are you guys like, let's get a fucking Michelin star? Or is it like, kind of quiet down? Doesn't matter? What do you
What
think?
I have always said is I don't like come into the restaurant ever thinking about like we're getting a star.
Right.
If we get a star, I will drop down to my knees and cry.
Yeah.
It will be like it will be this like lifelong dream accomplished.
For sure. For sure.
But I mean, I don't know, this place has achieved, and especially in the past year,
right.
like more than I could have imagined. Like January, Renee Redzepi like reposted one of our sous chef's stories about a vegan tasting menu that we did.
Dope.
Which was this like crazy cool cosign.
Yeah, man.
And then New York Times put us in, you know, the top 25 restaurants in LA, which, as you were saying, like Santa Monica is this very microcosmic thing. So
Yeah.
to be included in LA as a
Yeah.
whole feels really cool.
Definitely.
And then in December, LA Times put us at number 23. We climbed 17 spots from 40 to 23. And that all feels really good. But I try not to think about it. You know, you're going on to like talking about bad reviews, but like, I think good reviews are almost as damaging. Like you
Right.
can take bad reviews personally, but a lot of times you can look at good reviews and kind of be like, oh, we're perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, you know, like, well, they said we did this really well. So,
right.
Yeah.
but every day is different in a restaurant. The best restaurants have off days.
Yeah.
And if that's what's like driving you day in, day out, there's not a lot of substance behind that.
I got you.
Like if I'm super worried about an article being written or like, you know, somebody coming in to dine that's a reviewer or a critic, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a really hard way to like motivate yourself every day. And it's also like every time we get a really good review or achieve something that's beyond what I thought we would, you always have this like kind of empty feeling of like, what's next?
Yeah.
Right.
And so if I think about these things for too long, I kind of have this existential crisis of like, okay, well, what do we have to do next? Or like, oh, you know, I know a lot of people I've talked to. I've been very fortunate to be able to like talk to people who have earned stars and maintained stars. You know, Chef Fox included in one of those people,
Right.
but like other people I've talked to in the industry, and everyone says the same thing. The greatest feeling is achieving a star. The worst feeling is trying to maintain it,
Yeah.
Right.
or retain it.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know, it's great. There are these moments, you know, we'll have a pre-shift. I don't often post on social media about these achievements. I'm very thankful to the people who get it and see our vision.
Right.
But I don't know, everyone's showing up on time, and in large enjoying their time here. You don't enjoy every second of every day, but that's kind of the thing that motivates me and that I care about more than anything else is like, do I feel good about the food coming out tonight? Do I feel like everyone is engaged and actively getting something out of this? Is this going to have been an impactful place for them to work? And in the diners, is this going to have been an impactful place for them to eat? Yeah. That's really the most important thing. I don't know, like the media machine, you need it to run to be successful.
But asses in the seats.
Exactly. And so there is a big importance to it. I really try not to get lost in all of that because I just don't want to like depression spiral. Yeah. If we, say we go to 25 next year on the 101 list, like still really good, but you move down 2 spots and you start beating yourself up and you're like, oh, we had a worse year than last year.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of, I look at a lot of chefs and like meet them in person and I'm like, oh, you're crazy. Yeah. And it's like, okay, there's a lot that contributes to somebody being that, but like, there's a lot of really unnecessary pressure put on people to like, not only do you need to keep a business operational, but like now you're concerned about the public eye and
people kill themselves over this.
Yeah. No, I mean,
like, literally.
Yeah.
100%.
No, it's to be very real about it. I mean, I'd say I remember the year, this is, I don't know, probably 9, almost 10 years ago. Like, let's see, Josh Ozersky, it's like editor-in-chief, or like he did Grub Street, basically.
Okay.
Like very big proponent of the New York food scene, but like just very big proponent of food in general. He passed of a heart attack, and then I think in that same year, Amaro Cantu, the chef in Chicago.
Yeah.
He had.
I think he dropped. One of them just dropped on the line, I believe, or something. I think that wasn't more international, but right around the same time.
Amaro, I think, not to be too grim about it, but he hung himself in his new restaurant space, like before it was opened. And, that's like really terrifying to think about.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I try to find like intrinsic motivators, like what within myself excites me about the job and brings me in here and makes me want to do a good job.
Right.
The extrinsic motivators, the like outside source, I don't know. It's a short-term fix for like a very something that you want to be long-term.
Exactly.
Even if you don't stay in food forever, like the cooks here need to be. You don't. Like the thing that makes a successful cook and a successful chef is that, like, is your station clean because I'm gonna ride your ass if it's not,
or is it because you want it to?
Because you want it to be, and like, 10 times out of 10, you are more successful if it's because it's the way you want it to be.
Right.
I'm here to help. I'm here to like create structure and guidance and like consistency.
Right.
But I'm not going to tell you to make your bed. I will tell you to wipe your station down, but like that should really be something that you want. And if it's not something you want, you don't really last that long here.
Yeah. And I think overall we've made it more personal for each of the staff members. I think accolades are great. They're nice. But if you're not happy with what you're doing, then there's no point. Like if you cannot find happiness in what you do every single day, then what the fuck are you doing there? And I think for us, like for front of house, we always call them these hot dog moments, after the famous 11 Madison Park
they don't need any more. They don't need any more like.
I know, but
they're
it's
fine.
The
They're doing fine. You don't need to mention them.
Okay?
Just kidding.
I just feel like anything they do is like, oh my god, they're doing vegetarian food. Everybody's like, what?
But it's that mentality of like, of taking anything that you possibly can for that guest that is in front of you and making it the best experience that you possibly can.
Right.
Like, for instance, we had one guest who came in and he was like an artist in the area, and his wife. He and his wife joined us for dinner, and I was chatting with the table or whatever. Come to find out, the next day she was having surgery for a brain tumor.
Right.
And they had no idea whether or not she was going to survive.
Wow.
And like, just in that moment of me being like, oh, this is quite literally your last supper, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I do to make it so that this is a memory that is a good one that really sticks with you?
Got you.
My partner had spinal fusion surgery many years ago, and I remember the night before he had surgery, it was just like I couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything, and we were just like, you know what, like, fuck it, let's go have a last meal somewhere fancy. And that moment for us was so meaningful that like every time he had to have surgeries coming up, it was like, okay, great, let's go have the last meal.
Right.
And so literally she was just like, I just want a teacup. And like, we couldn't do a teacup because we only had like 4 in house at the time. And I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't do a teacup for you, but I can do a plate. They left. They had a great time. Literally thought about this woman for 2 years, just wondering. Wonder if she survived. I wonder how everything went. Last month, they came back in, and she was there, and she had told her daughter about the experience that she had here.
Whoa.
And like, her daughter gave me a big hug and was just like, thank you so much for taking care of my mom,
Right.
And that to us, like, to me, those are the moments that matter.
Right.
I could give a fuck about a Michelin star if I'm not having those interactions on a at least monthly basis.
Right.
That is the point for me. I don't need any of the other things. All food is about, at its base level, is about human connection. And literally the most like elemental level of humanness is you have to eat. And if we can just make that experience something amazing, however we can do that, that's it. That's the thing. That's what we have to strive for. And we have to get better every day to do that,
Right.
So that's the
Michelin star.
That is our Michelin star. Yeah.
That's the way I see it too. I'm like, maybe I don't have, a Michelin star at the restaurant or whatever, but I got one in here.
Yeah.
And that goes way farther than anything else. Any
Absolutely.
accolade, any fucking article, whatever it is,
Yeah. 100%.
And so big picture, obviously, you never stay somewhere forever. We're all cooks, we're all restaurant. What does the future hold for you? What do you see what do you want? Do you want your own restaurant? Do you want, to move somewhere crazy? And
I'm trying to become the oldest person to join the ATP tennis tour.
okay.
No.
Well, you got the hair, bro. You got it,
I told everyone I would include tennis in this podcast, and I finally found my way.
There you go. Do you play tennis?
I do.
Do you love it?
Yeah. I'm not gonna go too
Okay.
far into it, but like, it rivals my passion for this.
Really?
Yeah.
So that like opening the new thing
my
of balls,
God.
is that legitimately like what they tell
the
me?
feel, the sound, the smell, like seriously, like in that order.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the tension of the pull tab.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that crack. Yeah. It's like opening up a can of like Coke on steroids.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you peel it back, and then you may cut yourself like opening up a tin can in a
Right.
restaurant. And then the smell is great. It's probably terrible for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, somebody's gonna have like some weird form of mesothelioma from it. But, like,
There you go. If you played tennis from 1986 to
Yeah.
2023, you may be
the Dunlop ball.
exactly. When did you first start playing it? High
This is
school?
awesome. I played as like a teenager.
Okay.
I played competitively, but not very well.
Right.
I played in high school. I quit for probably 15 years, and then I was actually in Paris during the French Open, and didn't go, but it really sparked it back up. I got back home. My wife had booked us lessons.
Oh, damn,
We went and bought new
shit.
rackets. She
Okay.
had never played, so she got into it with me. It is like oddly, it's more telling about myself as like a personality type than anything else, because like watching the people on tour, it's like it's a life that parallels itself to like cooking at a very high level.
Yeah.
Like it's selfish.
Right.
And it's like very isolated, and it's a career that like, you know, these pros on tour, they can only relate to each other because there's no other life quite like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, I really love it, and I also
There's
think
at least 3 minutes a day of some sort of tennis themed thing that
Right.
happens in pre-shift.
there is, but
I
it's
can
like
see that.
you talk about like how do you instill passion
Yeah.
in your staff, and it's like I do a lot of like college game day type screaming, like
Oh, I love
like
that.
we're like
Yeah.
yelling and we're
Get
getting
the fucking
excited.
team going,
and,
baby.
yeah.
Let's go.
But also, I think it's helpful to show people that I think for a long time, and I really fell into this. It's like cooking is the only thing. That's the only part of my personality. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And if you have other creative or like other outlets to be passionate in, I do think it frees up your brain to think a little bit better in the restaurant. If you're just thinking food all the time,
Yeah.
Right.
like you're gonna hit a wall.
Damn right.
But if you have other things to do, you know, there's like a whole like neural pathway thing that we can talk about, but like it really just does benefit the job. And you know, if it's a healthy activity, then it benefits your job as well, performance, things like that. But you know, you stand at pre-shift, and everyone's like, okay, here's the menu change. You know, there's a routine to it, which is necessary. But then it's like, okay, we talked about food. We talked about, okay, here's the wine. Here's the by the glass. We have a discount on this.
Right.
You give somebody 2 minutes of something else that like maybe they don't even care about.
Right.
But it's like it keeps people engaged. I keep them guessing.
I like that.
Like, just talk about something that's different in
Pre-meal
pre-shift.
scripts. Yeah.
And then people are like, okay, then you go back to like,
Right.
you know, the agenda, and they've had a little bit of a break. Now they can pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about something that you're passionate about, which is oftentimes infectious, even if the people don't care about the subject.
Right.
It's just the energy.
But to go back to the original question, I would like to own a restaurant in some capacity. I think the popular thing for a long time was like, oh, everyone wants to move to a place that's 2 hours outside of a major metropolitan area and start a farm and a homestead and like,
Yeah, I hear you.
or, you know, like and this is not shade. It's a
Right,
great
right,
restaurant,
right.
but like the single thread model.
Right, right.
But like, you know, they're not the only people that do that. Like
Definitely not.
Blackberry
No.
Farms, all this stuff. That's not really. I think that was just kind of a trendy idea and sounds nice, but like
Right.
a small place that does something well, that's focused, with a small team. You know, I love the restaurant here, but one of the biggest challenges is that we're such a big restaurant.
Right. I understand you.
And
for
so,
sure.
like, just a place that requires less of a lift every day to get up and running. You know, it's like being like, instead of trying to operate like an international Airbus, you know, starting like a small prop plane.
Right,
With
right.
like very few issues and making a short flight. That's kind of the goal, is like, we can do some charcuterie really well. We do a handful of dishes. It's really good. It doesn't take everyone in the city to make the financials of the restaurant work.
Right, right.
And everyone's just happy.
right.
Yeah.
That's fucking great. Hell yeah.
I am not somebody who's, which is kind of funny because I plan everything.
Yeah.
I am very much a planner.
Okay.
I do not have a dream like that.
Okay.
I think it would be fun to be able to be in a 30-seater and really be able to like get into the nitty-gritty detailed stuff that you can't get with high volume.
Right.
I would love to be in a place that, you know, has the ability to get even more technical. You know, I was an art and art history major in college. And weirdly enough, like metalsmithing and cooking have quite a few things that interlap. And I love learning all of the techniques in the kitchen. So having some place that's like a little bit, has more technology that they're able to use to really kind of do crazy shit, that would be fun. But I don't have a plan. I don't really see
like
any
that.
point.
I like that a lot.
Life happens.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it does.
And like, sometimes you get opportunities and take the opportunities when you can, and the rest of the time just focus on trying to make yourself and everybody around you as happy as possible.
Right. Okay. Fuck yeah, guys. You guys, just talking to you, I'm like, damn, I want to work here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, you know.
We're hiring in the kitchen.
I mean, dude, when you, and you can attest to this, like when you have so much responsibility other than cooking, you just kind of wish sometimes that you could be a line cook.
Yeah.
You know, you look at these guys and they're like, they have their set of issues, you know, with whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And you're just like, man, I wish I had your issues. You know,
Oh, yeah.
like, you don't want to be in meetings hearing about fucking, you know, all the dumb shit that you have to hear about when you're an executive chef, because it's not all rosy all the time. And let's face it, I think right now in where we are in history is the hardest time to be in the food industry.
Yeah.
Just across the board everywhere. Prices are high.
Yeah.
The labor, you know, you have to pay them more, which obviously just inflation of everything going up with the rent and shit.
Yeah.
And I really don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm just happy that we have people like you just being anchors for the ethos of hospitality in restaurants.
Yeah.
You know, fuck yeah. So I think we leave it there, guys. What do you think?
Thank you.
Now that the Vitamixes are going,
Yeah, right?
I'm interested to hear the sound.
Turn off the blender. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Keep working. Keep working.
We have a podcast happening. You guys can figure it out, okay?
Keep it down over there.
Ross,
You're
hey
eating
Ross,
too loud.
don't even say anything.
All right.
Here's the problem: is like the cooks think they can talk.
There we go.
We're gonna leave this. I'm gonna go berate everyone.
There we
No, I'm just
go.
kidding.
There we go. Beration station. Okay, cool. Dude, this was dope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do it again at some point.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, I want this to be forever, this podcast and this relationship, you know, because as I always say, I ask some people to do the podcast and they're like, why me? And I'm like, because everyone has something to offer.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has some kind of knowledge that will be passed on, and somebody somewhere, I hope that a young cook or somewhere can just look and see the possibilities when you just kind of, you know, do your due diligence and do your job. And when you're off, you're also practicing excellence, you know, and like, how do you move? How do you eat? What are you reading on your days off? You know, that's also important.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that you guys are here and the guardians of that. So thank you so much. Jeremy
Thank you.
Fox, at some point we'll have you on the podcast. I've been talking to you a little bit about it, but who knows? He's pretty shy, you know.
He is.
But
We like
I've been
him.
trying for like
We'll
2
keep him.
years. I'm like, bro, come on. But maybe you guys can all harass him. Hey, everybody in the back, please let Chef Jeremy Fox know he needs to be on Sucio Talk. All right?
He's getting there.
There we
He's
go.
getting there. He's slowly but surely starting to do more and more interviews. So you might be able to.
Well, I get where he's coming from. I think sometimes these podcasts can be formulaic.
Yeah.
Like even mine, like usually this was totally different than what I usually do. I usually go from the start of the person's life and who are your parents or whatever. But I think more and more I'm just branching out into having a conversation and forgetting about what the fuck structure it is.
Yeah.
Because some people will reach out and be like, hey, you didn't ask him about what his parents did. And I'm like, okay, there's no script.
Yeah.
You know, also I'm like a crazy motherfucker. So, you know, my head's like a pinball machine. It's just like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's why it works for the industry, is because like how many chefs have ADD?
yeah.
Like all of them, right?
yeah, pretty much. That's why we cook.
Yeah.
Because we can't.
There's a
coordinate
clinical
other
reason
shit.
for this that we can talk about it at a later time. I promise
All right,
you.
we're doing a podcast with you and your wife because I gotta fucking figure this shit out. Like it would help for professionals to talk to us.
No,
to be honest with you.
yeah, that was
You know?
it was enlightening for me.
Yeah, definitely, man. You fucking taught me some shit on this podcast. All right, fucking Sucio Talk podcast out here, Birdie Gs. What is the address? How can they find this place?
We have a GeoCities website.
Okay.
We're 2421 Michigan Avenue,
Okay.
Santa Monica, California,
Dope.
90404. Let's go.
Good job. Get it.
Bergamot Station.
Yeah. Birdie Gs.
Our
There's
phone
a
number.
Metro
Our
link.
phone number is really good, but I can't remember what it is.
310-310-3616.
There we go.
Yeah.
And how about you personally? Where can we find you? Where can we follow your stories?
Oh God, I am not a social media person.
She was like the top
She is on
5
social
on the
media.
podcast. She's like, oh, I'm really kind of nervous. You're like over there enunciating and like you killed it. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate
You
that.
start putting yourself out there, more because
I am on Instagram.
Okay, what do you got?
It's my first and last name, Keely Alberts.
Okay.
It's very boring. It's just a lot of pictures of my cat.
Okay.
So.
Hey,
Like that.
love cats,
I should just give out my cell phone number. No, I don't want that.
Give out your email.
It is I'm Matt Shaler Official
Okay.
on Instagram.
Okay.
Which at first was really funny to me, and now just like seemed like as it goes on is like more and more of this like self-absorbed type name.
Right.
It started because it was like there was nobody who'd be copying my Instagram name. Nobody's
Right.
out there trying to create a fake Matt Shaler Instagram. So when people put the official, it's like okay,
Yeah.
this is the real one.
Yeah. The real.
So it's like an Instagram nobody would ever try and copy or mimic or try to pretend to be me. And so I threw the official on the end. And then now it just seems like I view myself as very self-important. But there's too many tags. There's like too many tags now. It's just Matt Shaler Official. It's fine.
You've really thought about this. You're
Yeah.
like, what do people think about my Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think about it too, and I'm like, I spend way too much time on this fucking app.
Oh, same.
I'm to the point where I'm just gonna, I need to give it to someone else. I don't want to look at it.
I had to give him a fidget toy.
Oh, a fidget spinner?
Literally, I had to give him a fidget toy because that's his go-to. Is when we're chatting and we're having a conversation. He's on Instagram.
Right.
I'm not even
That's the
paying
way-
attention. I'm just like flipping.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like the thumb.
It's literally just the motion for him, and so I had to get him a little fidget toy.
Or I'm
Right.
watching if I'm watching Ben Shelton win tennis on Instagram.
Yeah, that's fair. But you're paying attention.
Ben Shelton. I am.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, you got to have those little mental breaks throughout the
Yeah.
day.
The,
You know
the
what I
fidget toys are helpful.
Yeah. Shout out to my mom. Every
Okay.
Christmas, she gets a fidget toy. I think it's meant for me, but they go to the chefs.
Yeah.
So
mean? Okay, dope. Well, maybe next time I come on the show, I can get one. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what these things are. I'm like, there's fidget spinners? What?
oh, there's so many. There's like these little bubble popper things that you get.
Yeah.
The last one I
well,
got was like it's like a. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like you just.
It's like
do
two
this.
suction cups,
Kind of sounds
like
like
on
pen
on like a
clicking.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pen clicking is really good.
Yeah.
I like when I sharpen my knives, which I can't do. I don't do anymore because I don't cook. But like when I am active, when I don't have dull knives, I like test it on my thumbnail, and
Yeah.
it creates these little like, grooves.
Right.
So that's a really good fidget. Is like
Oh,
feeling the grooves in my
yeah.
thumbnail.
You're right.
But that's the thing. Like that's our whole thing is like, hey, we all are a little bit nuts. Let's figure out how to make it work
Yeah.
Right.
and do what we need to do. You
Yeah.
know. So.
Do the due
I love
diligence,
that.
baby. That's how we got to do it. I'll come back down to LA at some point. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to the cooks in the back. Just fucking head down over there, Blue Apron. I see you. I'm gonna come harass you guys later for dinner. I can't wait to
yeah.
have dinner. By the
Hell
way,
yeah.
We're excited
I'm
to
really,
have you.
really excited. Really excited.
Yeah.
Bring my girl over here. It's gonna be dope. All right, Sucio Talk podcast. Peace out, you punk bitches. Next week.
Yay.
Did it, guys. We did it.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, it gets sometimes it's nice because it's probably one of the few times where it's like totally undivided attention.
Yeah.
It's like you don't really get that a lot because, like you said, your phone, you got orders, you got fucking fish purveyors calling you, like all that stuff.